Hello, my name is Christian Hansen Patrick from 8G, and I will tell you about Alexander Graham Bell. Alexander Graham Bell is very famous as the creator of the telephone, who did a crucial role in communication for the people that are unable to hear and who retained more than 18 patents. So, who was Alexander Graham Bell? Alexander Graham Bell, who was a scientist and inventor from Scotland, is well known for being the creator of the very first working telephone in 1876 and the founder of Bell Telephone Company in 1877. His experiments in sound and the facilitating of his family's interest in helping the people unable to hear using communication brought success to Bell. Although his amazing intelligence granted him the ability to work on various inventions such as flying machines and hydrofoils, he collaborated with Thomas Watson to create the telephone. Early life and family. On March 3, 1847, Bell was born in Edinburgh, Scotland as the middle child of Alexander Melville Bell and Eliza Grace Simmons Bell, with his other two siblings being Melville James Bell and Edward Charles Bell. He was named for his benevolent grandfather and was given the middle name Graham when he was 10 years old. In his youth, Bell was greatly affected by his family and surroundings, which was Bell's hometown, Edinburgh, Scotland, that was known as the Athens of the North due to its rich culture of art and science. His grandfather and father were both professionals on the mechanics of sound and elocution, and even though Bell's mother was unable to hear, she became an accomplished pianist, which inspired Bell to undertake huge challenges. Bell was homeschooled by his mother, who applied an unlimited curiosity about the world around him. After that, Bell received a year of proper education in a private school and 2 years from Edinburgh's renowned Royal High School. Bell showed a not-so-common ability to solve complications despite just being an average student. He made a device with spinning paddles and nail brushes that can easily remove husks from grains at the age of 12 after playing with a friend in a grain foundry and noticing the slow process of husking the wheat grain. Early career. Alexander was being prepared ever since he was little to continue the family business. However, his headstrong personality didn't agree with his father's big-headed manners. Alexander then wanted to take care of his grandfather when he became ill in 1862 to find a way out. But Alexander was then motivated by his grandfather, who also instilled an appreciation for learning and intellectual pursuits. After that, he joined his father for his work with the deaf and soon enough got full control of his father's London operations. Alexander's father decided that North America was a high-chill environment during one of his trips there, and decided that he should move the family there. Alexander didn't want to move there at first, because he wanted to establish himself in London, but finally agreed on moving there. However, he wouldn't have changed his mind if his two brothers hadn't died due to tuberculosis. Alexander made a workshop to carry on his studies of the human voices in Brantford, Ontario, Canada, where the family settled in, and was then married in 1877 to Mabel Hubbell, whose ears had been unable to hear ever since her early childhood. Her father and former teacher, Gardiner Hubbell, was one of Alexander's early financial supporters. Alexander Graham Bell's inventions. Bell had 18 patents that he owns for himself and 12 patents that he shares with the people that collaborated with him in making them. One of those patents is the telephone, which he invented and was credited for inventing. The telephone. After years and years of working, Bell perfected his best-known invention, which is the telephone on March 10, 1876, and he then called for the first time using the telephone. Before that, Bell started to work on a machine named harmonic telegraph, which is a telegraph transmission of numerous messages with different frequencies in 1871 while he is moving to Boston. Then he found financial support from local investors Thomas Sanders and Gardiner Hubbell. From 1873 to 1874, Bell spent days and nights perfecting the harmonic telegraph, but he was interested in the idea of transmitting human voices through wires during his experiments. He was distracted by the idea and made his investors furious. Meanwhile, a skilled electrician named Thomas Watson was hired to make Bell be focused on the harmonic telegraph again. However, Watson also became fascinated by Bell's idea to transmit voice, and the two made a great partnership using Bell's idea and Watson's skills to bring Bell's ideas into the real world. Mr. Watson, come here, I want to see you. From 1874 to 1875, Bell and Watson worked on both the harmonic telegraph and the device that can transmit human voices. Even though Bell's investors were mad because of the distraction at first, they soon saw how valuable a voice-transmitting device would be, and then filed a patent on the idea of it. At this time, the idea was still protected. However, the device still must be developed. Finally, Bell and Watson became successful in 1876. Legend says that Bell accidentally knocked over a container filled with transmitting fluid and yelled, "Mr. Watson, come here, I want to see you." The most likely event was that Bell heard a voice through the wires and called Watson through them. In any case, Watson heard Bell's call through the wire and therefore received the first ever telephone call. Bell then started promoting the telephone in a sequence of demonstrations to the public after this success. One of them was the demonstration to the Emperor of Brazil, which was Dom Pedro, who then exclaimed, "My God, it talks!" at Philadelphia's Centennial Exhibition in 1876. He then did other demonstrations, that is at a greater distance than the ones before. Then, on July 9, 1877, the Bell Telephone Company was founded, and in January of 1915, Bell was invited to make the first ever call through a different continent. He called his former associate, Thomas Watson, who was at San Francisco, from New York. Other inventions. Bell wasn't a great businessman overall, and so that he could pursue a lot of inventions and intellectual pursuit, he started turning business matters over to Hubbard and the others in 1880. The Volta Laboratory in Washington, D.C., which was an experimental facility made for scientific discoveries, was also created by him at around the same time. Later in his life, Bell then started exploring the possibilities for flying machines and devices because of his interest in flight, and he began with the tetrahedral kite in the 1890s. He then founded the Aerial Experiment Association, which was a group that had developed several flying machines in the past, along with Glenn Curtiss and numerous other associates. One of these machines is the Silver Dart, which was the first ever powered aircraft flown in Canada. Bell then set a world speed record for the hydrofoils, which is a type of boat that Bell worked on. Legal challenges. Alexander and his wife Mabel traveled to Europe to demonstrate the telephone after their 1877 wedding, in which Bell was summoned to Washington, D.C. upon them returning, to protect his telephone patent from the lawsuits. Others have said that they had created or had thought of the idea of telephones before Bell did, and because of that, the Bell Company faced over 550 court challenges over the next 18 years, several of which went to the Supreme Court. However, none were successful. But the company grew even when the patent battles were going on. In between 1877 and 1886, more than 150,000 people in the United States owned telephones. Another thing is that improvements such as the addition of a microphone, invented by Thomas Edison, were applied to the telephones. Later life. Bell has carried on his family's working with the deaf throughout his life. He had established the American Association to promote teaching of speech to the deaf in 1890 and became the CEO of the National Biographic Society, which is a small little-known U.S. scientific group, in 1898. He also assisted in making their journal become one of the publications in the entire world that was loved the most. And he is also one of the founders of Science magazine. However, on August 2, 1922, at Baddeck on Cape Breton Island, Nova Scotia, Canada, which was his home, Bell died peacefully. To pay tribute to his genius, the whole telephone system was turned off a little bit after he passed away. The end. Thank you for paying attention.